Hello, I am Brooks Thompson from the National Sports Media Association. Today, I have the honor and the privilege for the 2024 Arizona Sportscaster of the Year, Jody Jackson. Jody, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Brooks. I'm so excited. I am, of course, honored to have this award, Sportscaster of the Year for the state of Arizona. There are so many wonderful broadcasters in our state, good friends of mine, colleagues, and so it is truly an honor.
I wanted you to introduce yourself first about what you do now, and we'll talk about where you've gone throughout this sports media industry.
Well, 2025, I guess, is a big year for me. I moved to Arizona in 2000, and so that means I've been here a quarter of a century, and my job has changed a lot over the years. My name is Jody Jackson, and I came to town. I was with Fox Sports Arizona for many years. The name just changed, Valley Sports Arizona, and now I'm with Major League Baseball as we cover the Arizona Diamondbacks. But through the years, I've covered every team in town. And really, for the bulk of the career, only in the last couple of years has it whittled down to the Diamondbacks and the Arizona Coyotes, which unfortunately have left our state.
Mhm.
But the good news for me is that my longstanding broadcasting ties with the Arizona Cardinals, Arizona State University, I've started to broadcast some games for them, baseball and softball, a little bit of women's basketball. Still do a lot with the Arizona Cardinals, but the bulk of my time is spent covering the Arizona Diamondbacks, which has been a really exciting team to cover through the years, especially since the World Series run and hoping to make a playoff push, of course, this year as well. But my hands are pretty full in the summer with baseball, which is awesome.
So I'm very thankful that you had the opportunity and time with this full summer to take a moment and let me interview you for National Sports Media Association. I wanted to ask you first, how did you get interested in the industry all the way back? You know, you've been working 25 years now in Arizona, but even before then, how did you get interested in the sports media industry?
So that's a great question. When I was a young girl growing up in South Florida, and my parents loved watching sports, and we loved the Atlanta Braves on TBS because that's what it was, when I was, 10 years old in the mid 80s, and we were watching that every night. And then football was king as well with the Miami Dolphins and the Miami Hurricanes. So the rise of the Miami Hurricanes got me really interested in the sport of football. And I on a side note, I was a baton twirler, so I was actually on a football field a lot and knew the game really well and decided that I wanted to talk about it. When I was a kid, I used to watch a lot of sports related shows. It's funny now we have such a wide range of shows, streaming options, all this. Back in the day on a Saturday morning, it was the coaches shows for Florida State, Bobby Bowden, it was Jimmy Johnson for the Canes. It was way back Galen Hall for the Florida Gators. So I'm dating myself a little bit here, but I loved watching that. I loved hearing about the teams, and I just wanted to be part of that. I wanted to report on sports, and I got my chance at WQAM when I came out of college at University of Miami. That was my first break in sports radio, and it was a great opportunity. I got to cover all the teams in South Florida, and that was kind of where I jumped off and created the career that I have now.
So you already answered my follow-up question a little bit, but I wanted you to take us through your path of your first job you landed right out of college and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so I came back from college. I was living down there for, the whole time I was in college, not far from my home in Hallandale, Florida, but went back home kind of like a lot of students really wondering what's next? What am I going to do? I don't really have anything lined up. Getting a lot of no's on my reel, which wasn't the best. That first reel out of college, you're kind of just worrying about framing everything right and doing all that stuff. It wasn't like a showstopper. So I cold called a lot of different places, and it was WQAM and the late, great Andrew Ashwood, who passed away a few years ago now. But I'm so thankful for him to give me the chance. He ended up going on to do great things at a lot of places, but Fox Sports Radio, he was president of Fox Sports Radio for a while. And, that's all you need is that one chance. And so I was very grateful to go in and prove myself and get that first job at WQAM in South Florida. Then, after 2 years there, I got a television job in Buffalo at WIVB. Chris Musial, the news director there, shout out Chris for giving me another chance to prove I could do it on television. And then a couple of years later, a whole host of people with the Fox Sports Regional Group, including Mike Conley and Kathy Whedon, gave me a chance to come out here to Arizona and essentially now, build my life. I met my husband out here, have two kids, and have had a wonderful career covering all the teams. So it's been quite a journey, and I've learned so much each step of the way, and just happy that I've been able to change with the times, I guess, is a big part of this too. As the jobs have changed, I sort of stepped up to those challenges and I'm still doing that. So I'm excited for what's coming in the future as well.
So those changes that you talk about, the sports media industry is always changing. Every single day is a new opportunity. What are some of the ways that you've learned throughout your entire career on how to grow with change and how to follow change?
Yeah, I mean, what's crazy is, Brooks, is some things don't change, which is, asking good questions and being prepared and knowing the game and um, getting to know the characters, so to speak, of the game and getting to know the people behind the scenes. But I would say probably the biggest change was we had the nightly show at Fox Sports Arizona. So my day consisted of going out and doing interviews and creating packages, kind of the old school news that we know. It still exists, right? You do a package, you put it on the air. Then we moved to the model of in-game and live games and the pre and post games, reporting in the game, and that was really I would say was a great service to me because even though change was a little bit scary, I learned to do things in a different way. I learned to basically do radio on TV with a 30-minute pregame show, sitting in a chair on the road. It was just me and whatever I could gather that day for the most part, and learning to host that and just talk for about 22 minutes every day. And it's great to be in people's living rooms in that way. And that I would say that was probably the biggest change. And then learning to try to get my stories across in game, which is kind of hard no matter what sport it is. How do you take that little bit of time you have and get those stories in? So I guess I'm still, that's what makes it so exciting is that every day is different and you're still trying to do those things every single day, no matter how long you've been doing it.
So I like to say that you've had an amazing, successful career so far. You've already knocked everything you can out of the park. And for someone younger like myself, or that is watching, who maybe, back when you were in college doing your sports media or maybe landing their first job, what is some advice that you would give them that you learned or that you took the opportunity to learn throughout your entire years in sports media?
I think one of the biggest things is don't be afraid to go out there and take chances. And, you have to prepare. You don't want to show up unprepared and just dive right in and say, yeah, I can do this. But you do have to trust yourself to an extent. And I think that was something I learned early on. I probably didn't do it early on, and I've done it more later in my life. But that, if you are prepared and you have done the research and you've gone out and done the interview, you kind of own it. I teach a class at Arizona State and I talk about kind of owning each situation, and that's how you can navigate from different sport to different sport or story to story. You go in and you have to own that knowledge, and then you of course learn more knowledge as you're doing it. But don't be afraid to say yes to those chances that you get, because and you and I were talking off camera a little bit about reps. Reps are so important for young people. The more that you get, the better you're going to get at it. It's just one of those things in life. I think most careers are that way, but especially in this business when it comes to broadcasting, because experience is everything. So it's just getting that experience. So don't be afraid to take those chances, but make sure you are prepared when you go into it.
So I'd like to follow up on that, some of those chances that you've taken throughout your career. What is something that you maybe thought you would have never done in your career that you ultimately went on and did? Maybe it was a random package you did or some interview you weren't expecting. What is something that you did that you had no idea you were ever going to do in this industry?
Wow, there's a lot. I mean, I'll take it to just kind of broad view when you talk about something that I've done. So this isn't really journalism, but I kayaked out at Oracle Park. I didn't really know what I was getting into. I went down to the pier where you get the kayak, which was, I don't know, probably a mile. I didn't even know I was going to be running down there. And this is in the first inning so that I could get it on the air. So then I get into the kayak and I am now kayaking in this is really, really deep Pacific Ocean. I don't know what part of me thought this was kind of like, oh, it's just, it's like it's McCovey Cove, right? No, this is like in order to get over there, I mean, there were sharks, Brooks. I don't even know what was in that water. I guess growing up in South Florida and going in the ocean all the time, I don't have a fear, but this was different. And it wasn't until I was out there that I kind of realized it. And I just kept going. I kept going. And I got to McCovey Cove where I felt more safe.
Hmm.
But that journey to McCovey Cove, Brooks, is something that I was not sure that I would ever do looking back. Luckily, at the time, I was fearless there. But gee, I don't like, there's so much as far as interviews. People said to me, who's your favorite interview? And I mean, I've gotten through the years, I've gotten to interview so many of the greats of our game in whether it's baseball, football. I don't know if I can really narrow it down to one, but my probably the favorite player that I covered throughout the career, and it was a big moment for the Arizona Cardinals to go to the Super Bowl, was Kurt Warner.
Hmm.
And I know he's a really popular figure in a lot of ways now, but that was pretty special for me. And of course, going way back to the '01 World Series with the Diamondbacks winning that, interviewing Luis Gonzalez on the field. Anytime you can talk about seeing your team win a World Series, doing an interview on the field, that's huge. And then the '23 run, as much as it wasn't the actual World Series, but beating the Dodgers in the NLCS was a pretty special moment, seeing the team beat Philadelphia. So there's been a lot of cool moments.
And I want to ask you, I always love to ask this final question to everyone is you have had such a great story career in the past, but looking ahead to the future, which can be unknown for a lot of people, do you have any goals or aspirations you're striving for now throughout your entire successful career that you're looking forward to? Maybe something else you're trying to knock out the park?
Yeah, it's a great question because there are a lot of opportunities that have been coming my way. I probably related to the Coyotes leaving, which left my winters more free. So the sadness of that, at least my calendar has filled up with some new opportunities, and they have been in the broadcast booth calling girls flag football here in Arizona, calling Arizona State, doing color actually, not calling the game, but doing color on Arizona State University softball and a little bit on baseball and basketball as well, women's basketball. So that has been exciting for me. Girls flag football is really interesting because it is an Olympic sport in 2028. And it's growing so much here in the Valley. My daughter being in high school, she doesn't play because she's plays softball, but seeing the girls get really energized by this opportunity to play girls flag football and get to college that way. So being part of those broadcasts has been really, really cool. And then on another note, a show that I did for about 8 years with our regional sports network called Driven In, I'm looking to resurrect that. I think it was a really fun show. I miss connecting with the players and coaches in that way where fans can see them in a different way. And that's something that I love being part of the live broadcasts, whether it's doing color or reporting. But I also still love the storytelling that comes from just doing a long form interview with a player or a coach. So I'm hoping to bring that back as well.
Well, we got to hear one of your great stories about McCovey Cove. I mean, that is an awesome story to hear. So we know you already have ambiguous amount of stories throughout your entire storied career, not only starting in Florida with Miami and getting a radio station going up to New York, but all the way through 25 years in Arizona. Jody, I want to ask you one more. Is there any closing remarks that you have here for this interview at NSMA?
Well, I am glad that I didn't get eaten by a shark back in, whenever that was. Maybe it was 2013 or 2014 or so. That allowed me to continue my career. But no, on a serious note, again, I'm really thankful to all of you working hard on this event because it's so important for us to continue to mentor young people, which I know is a big part of the weekend as well in Greensboro. So I'm excited for that. And then to honor our Hall of Famers and all of the state sportscasters and sports writers. So just a nod to all of you involved in this and Dave Gorin, of course, who heads it up. I'm so excited to be part of it. I was not able to come in 2023 because of all the craziness of the baseball season, but I'm so grateful for my career here in Arizona and all the people that have supported me along the way, my family, my husband, my two kids. We all know working in sports is not easy, a lot of nights, weekends, and travel, but they know that I love it. And I think they enjoy seeing me thrive in all of that. And I go back to my parents too, my parents who have since passed, but I thank them for my love of sports that started this whole thing.
Jody, I want to thank you so much for letting me have the time to interview and congratulations on the 2024 Arizona Sportscaster of the Year award, a very deserved award for yourself.
Thanks, Brooks. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time.